This is Dan Logus coming to you from Raleigh, North Carolina, showing you the artifacts of my life. I thought I would start here with this quilt that my mother made. A long time ago, I worked for a few years at a regional airline called Midway Airlines, and this was the Midway logo. It was yellow with a big blue M. They were on the tail of the planes. I loved Midway, and my mother's a quilter, so she made this quilt for me one year for the specific purpose of collecting pins when I traveled. When I worked for the airlines, I got to travel a lot, and I realized quickly that I didn't need to buy souvenirs everywhere. I should just buy something small to remember the trip, and I started to collect these pins. And since then, I have been collecting them every time that we travel somewhere. Here's one that is from Thailand. I got to go to Thailand for free. That was quite a trip. Let me see if there's another one to point out. Here's Pikes Peak. We were in Colorado just a couple years ago at the COAPE convention. So lots of pins. That's just the start. Let me take you over and show you the other things that I was going to talk about today. These are some of the artifacts of my life. Over here we have things that are from my childhood. This is a lamp that I found in my grandmother's basement when she passed away, and I just love it. I've kept it by my bed for probably the past 30 years, and it's still there today. This is a little monkey that I had when I was a kid. This is a bank. I probably got it in about 1977, and it's full of bicentennial quarters, which I haven't thought about in years until I found this bank, and I haven't seen one in a long time. But anyway, when I got that bank, bicentennial quarters were very plentiful. This is a piece of petrified wood that I found in the woods along the Platte River in northeastern Colorado, where I grew up as a kid, and I've always been fascinated by this piece of wood, and it still sits on my dresser today. And I collect Matchbox cars when I was a kid. This is my little Matchbox pin. I found that this morning. I have hundreds of Matchbox cars, and I was a strange kid. I was into collecting them, not playing with them. So they're all still in their original packages in my attic. I guess next we'll talk about Brazil. I moved to Brazil in 1992. When I lived in Brazil, inflation was 45% a month, so Brazilian bills and coins were worthless. I could have filled barrels of Brazilian coins that I found on the ground to bring home as souvenirs to everyone when I came back to the States. Free souvenirs. So it's something that definitely reminds me of that time period of Brazilian history. They're fortunate that finally they have a stable currency, and this isn't even the name of the money that they have today. This is a picture of me from when I was living in Brazil. I had this picture taken for my work ID card. Probably the first time in my life I didn't smile in a picture, but Brazilians would not allow you to smile for an official picture. And I wanted to show you my actual work ID card, but I can't find it. Over here, we have things that remind me of my grandmother. My grandma Schmidlin, my mother's mother, was a collector of everything. And one of the things she collected was these little monks that are made by Goebel or Hummel, made in West Germany. She had probably 100 of these, and this one's a salt or pepper shaker, but they were all kinds of things. There's a story about me as a baby that her monk collection fell off of the wall into my playpen, but apparently we all survived because the monks didn't look broken to me. I don't really know the whole story. This Christmas, my mother decided that she was ready to part with these mugs that my grandmother collected. These are called Toby mugs. That's at least what Grandma called them. They were made in England by Royal Dalton. This one's Robin Hood. None of us think that they're particularly attractive, but I have 5 of them now, and my sister has 5. My cousins have 5 each probably. And they just remind us of Grandma because these were all over her house. So it's very sentimental. This, anybody who knows me, I couldn't make an artifacts display without talking about dachshunds. We have 2 dachshunds, one that looks a lot like this one named Monster, and then a fluffier one named Rocky. This is also a Hummel, a Goebel. Bill and I found this on a trip to Indiana at a thrift shop for $3.99 a few years ago. It's one of the best finds we've ever had at a thrift store, but we don't intend to sell it. It's part of our dachshund collection. Dogs have always been an important part of my life, even though I was born into a family of people who didn't particularly like dogs. My parents always let me have a dog from when I was very young. This is my one and only foray into cross stitch, which for some reason, when I was about 10, I did this cross stitch project. My mother was really into cross stitch, so I must have wanted to try it. And I made this little one about dogs. The more I see of some people, the better I like my dog. And it's actually designed to look like Morgan, the dog that I had at the time. And I hadn't seen this in 30 years or more until a couple Christmases ago. My mother had found it, and she put it in this wall hanging. It now hangs in our house. It's really sentimental. So probably my favorite thing here is this recipe book. When I moved to Brazil in 1992, my mom, being a mother, felt it was her duty to write down my favorite recipes for me so that I could eat my favorite foods in Brazil. It didn't ever occur to her that the ingredients might not be the same in the tropics in 1992, and you can see actually from the book what the tropics did to it, the humidity and the mildew stains. But I did use some of these recipes in Brazil, and I actually used one of these recipes at Christmas to make cookies. And this will be forever one of my most treasured items because it's actually in my mother's beautiful handwriting, which is a lost art. Thankfully, my mother is still with us and in very good health, but someday she won't be. So that's my favorite little recipe book. Thank you for listening to my artifacts. I'm looking forward to, I've really enjoyed watching the ones that I've seen. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest. Thanks. Bye.